Hey everyone, and welcome to the debut episode of the Squared Slice, the Schmoes of the North wrestling podcast. Is going to be brought to you every week by myself, the friendly neighborhood soda, and joining me as my co-pilot, my Big Daddy Cool to the Heartbreak Kid, if you were,
I'll take it.
the JJ Dillon to my Tully Blanchard, Dustin Dubuque. How are you doing, my man?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me here. This is super fun. I'm so glad we were able to come up with this idea so quickly. We haven't known each other long, but one thing we learned, we both love wrestling. So
yes, that is the case during our prep meeting, and ended up going like an hour just talking wrestling.
Just talking wrestling. Who needed to talk anything else like movies and all that stuff when you could talk about pro wrestling instead?
Right. And so the premise of the show is like, well, okay, there's so many wrestling news podcasts out there and stuff, and we will be touching on a few things if it's deemed big. Like we will be touching on something that Huge just announced like half an hour ago. But for the most part, we will be. Hey, Ben. Yeah, for the most part, we will be shying away from the news. But like I said, if there's something major, so for the most part, we will just be taking a topic and we'll be discussing it every week. But first, before we get into our topic, let's talk about the big announcement that happened like not even half an hour ago, and that's reports that Daniel Bryan has officially joined AEW.
Crazy.
Now that's a huge get for them because his last WWE match was the main event of WrestleMania.
Yep. And who would have thought too? Did you honestly believe it when you first heard the rumblings that he would go? Did you really think he would leave the WWE sphere?
If it was anyone else but Daniel Bryan, I would have said no, I wouldn't have believed it. But because it's Daniel Bryan and he's made it vocal that his heart has always been in the independents and he would like to return there one day, that's the one that seemed the most likely.
Okay. Interesting. I don't know. I always had that feeling. I just, they're like Cena, which of course we're burying the lead that we're going to talk about also, because another big thing happened this week is John Cena's back. I don't know, man. I know Daniel says that. I totally understand it, but I thought he was, with Total Divas happening, it's canceled now, and Total Bellas and his wife and all of this stuff and this legacy and like all these, the Connor for the Cure and all these things. I just didn't think he would do it. But he, according to the reports, he got a great deal. He got the same amount of money to work way less dates and go to Japan and do all the independent stuff he wants to do. And I mean, how do you say no to that?
Exactly, because that's the type of deal that WWE would never, ever give anybody for one reason or another. I don't understand that. It's like they call them independent contractors, but basically they're employees. It's their whole employee structure is a little weird and shady.
Yeah, and I was surprised too with Bryan. I even had this discussion with somebody probably about a month ago. I'm like, why not? Like, if I was the WWE, why not make Bryan that first guy that you really let go? Knowing that he's still a WWE guy, but he can go to Japan for a couple shots and stuff. Like, why not finally do it? Like break out of your shell. If anybody could do it and still be, a great ambassador for your company, it's Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, they used to have that type of relationship back in like the 80s and 90s because Hogan famously, when he was champ, would go and do it. But the thing I've noticed about WWE is when it comes to things like that, they will only do it if it benefits them. And how exactly would that benefit them, right?
Exactly. And totally true. And I think WWE is very in their own lane right now. Whether you love them or you hate them, they're not, as Vince McMahon will say, or Triple H, they're not a wrestling company. They're an entertainment conglomerate.
Yeah, and that's the big difference between WWE and AEW's. WWE looks out for their business, where AEW does what's best for the business.
The business, yeah, and agreed. And I think Bryan's a great pickup. And I guess we can just go right into the other rumors. The Bryan report seems pretty legit.
Yeah,
but that finally, after 8 years, Punk also is returning. And it said
supposedly that one they haven't been able to verify that one.
Right. But I thought the news reports were from some relatively credible folks in the wrestling news world, which we know there are very few. But it's also reported that WWE believes it's AEW and not WWE. So what if, it finally happens?
I'm excited for it because I've been a big fan of Punk, and of course the pipe bomb is what made him one of my favorite all-time wrestlers. Just my question is it too late? It's been, because as you said, it's been 7 years.
A buddy of mine texted me today and he said, I loved Punk. I loved him. I loved him like you and I did. I mean, we were all in on Punk. And he said, I don't know if I love him to really make me feel that way about him again. Because it's tough, he had the rough UFC career. He's been pretty well out of the wrestling eye besides the occasional thing. He's spoken very poorly about wrestling for years. So
I don't know if it was more when it was spoken, was it more WWE he was speaking poorly of, or wrestling in general?
Well, I would say most of the years AEW didn't exist yet.
Because we did, what was that, 2-3 years ago, we had that random run-in at an independent show in
that was super random.
All In. Yeah. And what I'm thinking is, sorry, go ahead.
Nope, finish your thought.
Oh no, I was gonna say, it makes you wonder, because he's currently gonna be as a recurring actor on the new TV show Heels coming out with Stephen Amell. And it makes me wonder just maybe if being involved in that maybe might have lit a fire or something.
Right. Well, and even the little bit he did with Fox, right? He probably enjoyed hanging out with Booker and Paige and seeing his friends. And, that you can't, he never got out of the business. He always he did a shoot interview once a year on a live stage, or not a shoot, but an interview or something, and he showed up to a signing for All Out. That was his first public appearance.
Yeah. And that's when he had that random run in the same weekend. Yeah.
And so, I mean, he's always been there, but again, like you said, is it again, I love Punk, but I don't know if I have the same feeling if Punk shows up at AEW the way I had with Cena.
Right. Because who knows how long Punk's, if he's even been training for it or anything. It's been 7 years. What's the ring rust is going to be? Is it going to be the same CM Punk that we saw 10 years ago completely take the world by storm with the Summer of Punk? So I actually had reached a place where I was like, I'm fine if CM Punk never comes back, because I'd moved on by that point. But now that it's announced and it's AEW, and it's just like, oh my God, Punk with some of the best non-WWE wrestlers in the world. Just put it in my veins, man.
Right. But, and then you get to the other thing, because we just started the show, and it's the first episode. It's 2 weeks ago, Malachi Black, Aleister Black.
Which it's like, why does all these guys have to go against Cody Rhodes when they enter? But then you're watching how the program going, and it's like, okay, this might work.
This one I think could work. The rest of them have not. I think that's been a common criticism by all of us wrestling fans, is that they all get booked with Cody, and Cody kind of chews them up and spits them out.
Yeah.
But I think this one could work. But it's just amazing. And again, I know they have a YouTube show, but they have 2 hours of television. I know they have a third hour coming on Fridays. And so obviously, if they're going head to head with SmackDown, which is now WWE's flagship show,
let's not forget they do have a second show coming on TBS soon.
Yeah, right. That's it. Yeah. But it's on Fridays, and we all know that WWE is doing well on Fridays. SmackDown is doing well. It's a popular show
right now.
It's probably my favorite overall. If I had to watch a wrestling show on a weekly basis, it'd be SmackDown. As much as I love NXT and I love parts of AEW, I mean that's what you watch. So you need Daniel Bryan and Christian Cage and Jungle Boy and all these people. I mean, that's gonna be a tough go.
Yeah, but hey, man, the stuff we could potentially get out of that is going to be amazing. And then the other big thing that happened this weekend. I mean, this one it's been talked about for a while that it was going to happen, but John Cena finally returning to the WWE to challenge the head of the table, Roman Reigns, for the Universal title at SummerSlam. I am excited for this because I know they've faced each other in the past in a really good match, but this is the passing of the torch match. Finally,
it is.
Yeah, because Roman has finally hit that spot where everybody knew he could get to, but wasn't quite getting there because of how they were portraying him. But now he's finally hit that face of WWE spot, and now it's time for Cena to say, "It's your turn."
Right, and it's going to be great. Like, putting edge with Roman, and John's the only guy that I think could do it. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, everybody, I'm sure anybody that's going to watch has seen the John Cena video of him returning. Yeah. It was insane, and just the feeling of it. It was just so interesting. Like you said, for a match that's already happened, not that long ago, 4 years ago or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but man, it's just the complete change of like Cena being this huge Hollywood star now, Roman being the new face, and now they're like, and as you said off camera, Cena looks incredibly in good shape.
Oh yeah,
he looks ready to go.
Yeah, he looks like the Cena of his prime. He really does.
He does.
And
I mean,
sorry,
that's sells SummerSlam, right?
Yeah, that's a few weeks away, and like I remember their last match, the promos leading into it were amazing. Now we're gonna have a heel Roman doing his promos. Like the promos for this are gonna be lit
with Paul Heyman.
So
it's gonna be awesome. I cannot wait.
It's the show closer for SummerSlam. It has to be.
I have not felt this good about a moment in wrestling in a long time. Like it felt when you saw Cena, I don't know that. Did you get that feeling of like, yeah, finally? Like I am legit excited.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I know he hasn't been a full-timer for a while, but it's very weird not to have John Cena around.
It is, right? And at some point we're going to have to come to the conclusion that he's not going to be around.
Yeah.
You know? And I think wrestling fans with Brock and Cena have not had felt that yet. And at some point it's going to happen.
Oh, for sure. And their match that's coming up, like I'm not saying it's going to be as marquee as the one I'm going to compare it to, but I think it's going to be a better match than Rock Hogan for WrestleMania. Ooh. I don't know. I don't think it'll like it definitely won't hit the levels of anticipation, but I think it's going to be a better version of that match.
Oh, and you got to think it's the first big audience too.
Yeah.
Yes, they had people at Money in the Bank, but it was what 13,000 or something like that.
Yeah, and it was in Fort Worth, which is a decent sized city, but it's not Vegas.
It's not 40,000 tickets. I think they have for SummerSlam or something. Like
yeah, because it's supposed to be in the new home where the Raiders are going to be playing, right?
Exactly. It's like kind of like the kickoff, like they do at all stadiums. It's like, oh, here's one of the first big shows we're doing, and it's SummerSlam, and we're putting Roman Reigns and John Cena in the main event. Yeah. That's why I almost thought it was. And again, we're going to move on to our topic, but I almost didn't think they needed. I'm not totally against Goldberg. I get it because Goldberg also returned on this last Monday. But but they don't need to do it here. Cena and Roman are already on the show. Why?
Because you don't need Goldberg. Brock, but Brock wouldn't do it. So
right, because even Brock knows he doesn't need to do it.
No, and it's like I'm with you. I'm fine with Goldberg, but it's like, does he need to be in another title match? Like, I mean, no offense to the guy, there's a reason he is a Hall of Famer. There's a reason he's a legend. But unfortunately, with the exception of the Dolph Ziggler match from 2 years ago, his matches in his latest run outside of the Brock Lesnar feud have been not great.
They're not great, and and even the Brock match. I mean, the Brock match at Mania was good because they did what
for sure.
It was like
the Survivor Series one was just out of fucking nowhere,
which was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I mean, so why even have it? You have Edge versus Seth Rollins, Roman versus Cena. You don't need this third match here.
No.
So it's just interesting to me. But yeah, I'm excited. Right now, this is an interesting day. Sure. A really good day for our first show with John Cena rolling in, Dan O'Brien going to AEW most likely. Oh, Nick Gage, Mr. Hardcore himself, going to AEW today.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting. And the fact that you know what? I'm a big. So anybody who doesn't know out there, maybe we should tell folks. We will not be talking much Nick Gage on our show.
Yeah.
But Nick Gage is like the ultimate violent wrestler. Yeah. And he like prides himself on the most like barbed wire light tubes guy. Mm-hmm. And they put him right with Jericho, which I thought was super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody could get a good, non-insanely hardcore match out of him, it would be Jericho. And it's not that we don't like respect what they do or anything like that. It's just unfortunately the GCWs of the world, they're not exactly in our wheelhouse.
They're not.
I have watched a few GCW shows because they're on YouTube. It's good, but it's not something that I'm. It's not when I hear wrestling, it's not what I think of. It's not something that I will watch all the time. So unless something major happens, like when Moxley Engage finally happens on there, we probably won't mention much about that scene.
No. Well, even though him and Ryder have their match this weekend.
That's right. That's coming up. Now that was a pretty cool swerve when Ryder
was cool. Came out. And the fact that he got out of that building alive.
Mark
Cardona. But yeah, that's the big thing this week, and even that intrigues me a little bit because I do want to see these. Because if you're going to do Nick Gage and he's pretty adamant, he doesn't back off. Like if you're going to come into his ring, he's gonna you're going to have to do what he does.
Mhm.
And so Jericho is going to do this on TV? That can't be real.
Yeah, but I think because it's on TV, it's probably going to be toned down a little bit.
Right. But
like, obviously, we're not going to get him stabbing somebody in the jugular like he tried to do with David Arquette.
Yeah. that he completely blames Arquette for now. Yeah, I know. But, I mean, the Cardona thing's going to be interesting. You know, I mean, he has to know he's going to go in there and get butchered.
For sure. And this is a guy, like, I'm because I don't have a lot of time, I haven't unfortunately been able to catch up on Impact in the last while. So I haven't actually seen him wrestle outside of WWE yet. So I probably will be turning into this just because I'm curious to see how he does in a foreign environment, really.
A foreign environment.
I don't think he's ever been in a match like that.
Oh, if he has, it was in the Indies, 15, 20 years ago when he was first starting, and he was like, he needed $100, so he figured let somebody hit him in the face with a light tube.
Yeah, pre Major Brothers.
Very, very interesting. But yeah, no, great week to start the show, Soda. So I'm glad we started off now.
Let's start it up. Our first topic, it makes sense because of the weekend. It's going to be the Money in the Bank, and this is one of the better Money in the Bank pay-per-views that just this weekend that we've had in a long time. I know last year, like I'm actually a fan of last year's concept because I knew it was going to be a one-off. So as a one-off, it was great.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's nice to go back to the traditional Money in the Bank, and everybody pulled out all the stops.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought the Money in the Bank match is a brutal match. I mean, they're all like, it's almost like they go in knowing that, hey, every one of us has to take like 3 bumps off this ladder, and we have to fall onto the ladder, and like this is just how it's going to go, and that's what makes it fun. It's to me, it's the new number 4 pay-per-view. That's how I've always looked at it.
I was just talking about this with a coworker of mine. I would actually say it's the new top 5 pay-per-view because it takes the place of what King of the Ring used to be.
Or that. I always take place because I always think Summer Survivor Series needs to like be done. We need to cut this off here now.
Yeah, it's not the same. It was different when you had the 4-on-4 elimination matches, but that's one that got the prestige. So I don't think it's going anywhere, even though they did try to cancel it like 10 years ago.
They did, yes, they did.
But yeah, I think Money in the Bank is perfectly slid into that slot, and because it's just as important as the other ones, and it's actually the only concept pay-per-view that they've introduced that I say is the only one that's deserving of a pay-per-view. Hell in a Cell doesn't need to be a pay-per-view because before it was like, oh my god, we're getting Michaels and Triple H and Hell in a Cell. Now
we're getting like 3 or 4 a year.
Yeah, and now it's like, okay, who's in the match this year? And same with TLC. Like, I don't think that needs to be a pay-per-view on its own because those are supposed to be like end of the road, final chapter in a feud matches. Money in the Bank, however, because of the stipulation, it lends itself to being the big deal.
Right. Are they still doing Elimination Chamber after Royal Rumble, or did they stop that? Okay, that's another one. That's another one that needs to go. I loved the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view when it was one of those because that match is interesting one time a year, like because it's really brutal and like it kept you guessing, and they always put 6 really good competitors in it, and now a whole pay-per-view based around it is just not as interesting.
The last time I enjoyed the pay-per-view was when they did the inaugural women's tag team title match. When you saw, like, what was it, 10, 12 people in the ring? Like, that was nuts.
It was nuts. I remember the men's one too, where it was like people were crawling all over the cage and stuff. I'm like, this is complete chaos.
Mm-hmm. I miss the days of yore when it's like you would get at the Survivor Series and you get like the 6 big people fighting for the title. Whereas this time it's like you're more fighting for a title or for the shot at a title. I don't know. It's not the same. It's kind of lost its appeal.
You know, the one thing about Money in the Bank that's just, it's because there is, like you said, there's a stake that's almost just as important as winning a title. Like you get this, you become an automatic spotlighted star for
exactly
X amount of days. Yeah. You know, some people carry the briefcase around for 200-300 days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's important.
It is, and that's why I said it seems like it's taking the place of King of the Ring, because King of the Ring used to be like that. Because I mean, it launched Owen Hart, it launched Stone Cold, it launched Triple H. It launched Edge, and launched Kurt Angle.
It was amazing how many people King of the Ring for about 10 years. Even Mabel, like King Mabel for that year was like,
it was hot.
Don't get me wrong, but that was like the most popular he probably ever was.
For sure.
as like
For
a
sure.
star because he was like the big guy with the king that became a
Yeah.
bad guy. But yeah, it was a great concept, but sometimes concepts just wear out. But the Money in the
Oh, for
Bank
sure.
never feels like it does, even when we're going to get to what we're going to chat about, which is some retrospective. I was kind
Yeah.
of looking through and I'm like, there's very few of these that I just don't have any interest in. Like, this is always something fun here. Because, I mean, as wrestling fans, watching people do crazy things off ladders and fall through them is fun.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, it's like, what are they going to do this year? Like, I mean, back in the days of yore, we had Shelton Benjamin. It was like, what's Shelton going to do? And then it was Kofi Kingston. What's he's going to do? Now we've got the days of like Ricochet. And oh my God, that spot that he did this weekend
He
where he
got
off the ladder
so much
on the ropes and he
awesome.
almost overshot the spin.
I know. Him and Morrison too had some.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a huge John Morrison fan, huge, and that he had huge spots in that. Like
that flip
was
off
awesome.
the ladder
It was amazing. Like how he does it. Him and Ricochet both. Yeah, him and Ricochet both are that, and how smooth they are. Like
for sure.
Don't you ever watch them and just go, man, the way they can hit a flip. It's never goofy. It never looks like they're gonna miss or hurt themselves or the other person. They're just as smooth as can go when it comes to doing the high flying stuff.
I want to see Ricochet have a run with the IC title.
Right. Oh yeah, me
I don't
too.
think he'll ever be champ, but I could see him being a good IC champ.
I think so too. Yeah, Ricochet's doing well, and I think he's him and Morrison both. I think are both primed for something. So, what do you think about the winners this year?
Okay, we'll go with the men's first. Like that one was the most obvious, but still, it was great to see Big E finally get get that spot.
They're like 3 years late on this,
and you could see his reaction when he grabs it down. He's like, "I get it!" Like it was just like the whole match was great. Like it was probably match of the night for me. The women's one wasn't that bad. My favorite part is Alexa Bliss at the beginning while everyone's fighting. She's just standing there on the turnbuckle watching. I'm like, oh
yeah.
And the win of Nikki, I'm gonna call her Nikki Cross because I honestly do hate the name Nikki ASH. Yeah. I love everything else. I hate the name. It made me feel happy. Like I was really genuinely excited for her, especially when you hear why she won.
Right.
It's because Vince McMahon likes the gimmick, likes her. She's loved by everyone behind the scenes, and he was rewarding her for taking the initiative and creating a gimmick that, well, in his eyes, has a lot of merchandising possibilities. And that's cool to see that he was rewarding someone for putting in the effort.
Yeah,
and to have her win the title the next night was like, oh my God, the first Raw in front of a crowd,
intense.
Like awesome.
Yeah, it really made sense of why they went the way they did with Charlotte beating Rhea. Because they knew they were going to get a bunch of heat for it because Charlotte gets the title whenever she's around. And I think all of us fans, but granted, I think Charlotte's amazing, so it's hard to get around it. And her and Rhea had a crusher of a match.
Way better than their last one.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. I was like, to me, that was almost my match of the night. I don't know why, but I was just like, this is awesome. Like, this is great. It's wrestling here. But yeah, it totally worked. And yeah, good for, I think a lot of people, we always hear the negative side of wrestling and Vince and WWE, but you hear those stories a lot where Vince hears and likes someone because they went for it. And he did it with Nikki.
Forgive me for the comparison, but when Nikki won, it felt like Mick Foley in '99.
It does.
Not in terms of like historic scale or whatever, but I'm just like how the moment made you feel.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was interesting too. Because I went into that match not knowing who they were going to have win anyway. Because
that was the harder of the two to predict.
It was. I thought maybe they roll with Alexa because she's like the most, whether you like her or not, probably one of the more popular gimmicks and people in wrestling right now, whether good or bad.
The Cabana Boy any day. Like she's one of my favorites. She's, joking aside, she legit is one of my favorites because her character work, she's made everything work.
She's all in on it, just like Nikki's all in. But
exactly, and that's the rumor. That's the rumor going into SummerSlam. Alexa, Nikki, good versus evil, because we never really properly had that payoff of their split. Like we had a couple matches, but never really did. So now we're gonna get, if that's the truth. Oh my God,
that's right. Oh my gosh, I forgot that their little thing was together for a few months.
Yeah,
that would be good. That'd be good,
right?
Okay,
Just
I like
think of the
that now.
promos alone, like the superhero Nikki trying to deal with the the dark side.
Right. And if you want to get down to the brass tacks of it, WWE's for families. Those two are perfect.
For
Perfect
sure.
characters. I didn't you see the thing the other day? I think I read in I'm gonna some type of merchandise came out with Alexa. I don't know if it was a shirt or a figure or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the fastest sold item of merch sold out on the website this year.
Oh yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
No.
And don't get me. I have a feeling that when the dust settles, she will be in the conversation with a Trish Stratus and of the best.
Yeah, I think she's spectacular.
Yeah, and especially from where she came from. Like she was just basically a manager with no experience, and then to skyrocket to where she is now as a competitor. It's amazing to watch.
Well, and again, the investment.
Mm.
She's went all in on all the gimmicks, whether it was like, when she was hurt and she
For
was
sure.
doing the moment of bliss and she was all in on that.
Yeah,
Or just like, the whatever. I guess she was just kind of Alexa Bliss prior. But yeah, I think she's high up, and there's no secret. If Vince likes you,
for sure. He's gonna push
you get a push. And he likes
Yeah.
Nikki, he likes Alexa. It's just how it is.
So I mean, we're shaping up to have a really great SummerSlam, and I can't wait. SummerSlam is one of my favorite events. Like my favorite pay-per-view of all time is a SummerSlam. So
interesting, SummerSlam. Well, I'm gonna hold that off until the SummerSlam episode to figure out
for sure. I'll tell you
which SummerSlam it is.
I'll tell you off air why. I'm not telling you which, but I'll tell you why.
Okay, that's the deal. I'll hold it off until then to figure out which SummerSlam is Soda's favorite SummerSlam. Interesting.
When when it's revealed what it is, you'll be like, of course.
Okay. All right. I already have a couple in my head, so we'll remember that. We'll remember that in about 5 weeks.
Yes, exactly. I mean, SummerSlam coming right around the corner. So let's hop right into our topic, which is the Money in the Bank match itself. Basically, it was a concept that was created in 2005 by Chris Jericho, not Edge, like Michael Cole said on the pay-per-view. Basically, it was Jericho's way of getting a whole bunch of people involved in a match that didn't really have anything. It was just basically a thrown together match, and they liked it so much they booked it. And the competitors in the match, like if you look at it, and I know one of the competitors in the match is persona non grata. Obvious reasons. We're never ever will condone anything that happened, but I mean, you can't talk about the history of wrestling without talking about this guy. And in the first match, it was Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Christian Kane, and Shelton Benjamin.
Yep,
that is a murderer's row of talent right there.
Well, and it, like you said, when you rewatch it, it was WrestleMania 21, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, 21.
It's interesting when you rewatch that one. When you rewatch the first three, it probably goes back to our conversation we were just having.
Yeah.
Yes, it's gimmicked out a little bit now, but we still like it, which means it has longevity, which is good. But of course, the that first one, when you watch it, you can tell it's five guys trying to they only have the match. How long is it? 8-9 minutes long. It's pretty short.
15 minutes and 17 seconds.
Oh, it's that long? Jeez.
Yeah.
It felt.
It's not the longest, but
it feels like when you watch it, it's flying by. And you can tell those guys are like, okay, well, we're going to put on a really awesome ladder match, so let's just roll with it.
Yeah.
And that's how it felt. And that's why people were like, and Shelton Benjamin doing one flip off of a ladder that's set on the ropes made the whole match. Just one really cool spot.
Yeah, because from there, you're like, oh shit! If when you hear the next one, they're like, oh shit, what are they going to do to surpass that? And also, Edge is the inaugural winner. And while he was already starting his push, this is when they strapped the rocket on him and said, "You're going to be one of our guys now."
They did, and I remember watching that live, and I remember everybody that I was watching it with was shocked that it was Edge because he didn't have that yet. He was still that Intercontinental guy.
Yeah.
He was still the tag guy.
Yeah, at that point, he had the formation with Lita hadn't happened yet.
Yep.
None of the things that we associate with Edge were there yet.
Yeah, he was still wearing the purple tights with the E.
Yeah, on them. He'd already turned into the rated R superstar, but he hadn't become the rated R superstar.
Right. Exactly. He was he had that, lack of a better word, edge to him. That's terrible. Yeah. But that's what he did, and well, and because Benoit and Jericho were hot at the time too.
Oh, for sure.
And it's Kane. It's Kane. He's a champion.
And Christian, of course, was a Christian. We're at that point. We're just a year removed from Benoit winning the main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. And it's just interesting to think how much that one match Because just think if it would have went poorly.
Yeah, we wouldn't have gone the second one, which is arguably one of the more memorable ones for what ended up happening after the fact. Again, these early Money in the Bank matches were at WrestleMania, which if they didn't have the pay-per-view, I would have loved if that match just stayed at WrestleMania personally.
Right.
But in this one, we had Bobby Lashley, Fit Finlay, which you look at, that's okay.
I love
Matt Hardy. The one that really sticks out, Ric Flair, and returning Shelton Benjamin, and RVD, who was the eventual winner. And what was important about that one is it ended up setting the stage for ECW One Night Stand 2, where you had Rob Van Dam challenging for the WWE title on ECW soil against Public Enemy number 1, John Cena, because when he entered, I've never seen a crowd that hostile before.
If Cena wins, we riot. The greatest sign ever.
Yeah. And from there, we get RVD winning the top prize in the industry and helping launch the ECW brand as a war. Fortunately, things didn't end up going so well. He had to drop it a month later because of an arrest for marijuana possession and stuff. Whoops. But that cash in is one of the more memorable ones for sure.
Well, and that match. So it's fun. So to get ready for this, I watched that one again because it is one of my favorites. Because I'm a huge RVD fan. But man, you forget the couple bumps Flair takes in that match.
Yeah,
Flair does he takes the suplex from Matt Hardy off the top of a ladder.
He was at that time 57 years old.
Yeah, and he just takes it like a champ. Yeah. And so does, maybe not in this one so much, but the next one that I'm sure you're going to give us the quick gist on WrestleMania 23, because those three, I think, are the inaugural three. They are the three that pushed it. And that's 23 one, which maybe I'm overstepping what you're going to say, but I'll just say it because it's CM Punk, Edge, Fit Finlay, King Booker, Matt Hardy, Randy Orton, and Mr. Kennedy wins. Yeah. Finlay does the Flair from the year before in that match.
Right.
He takes major bumps off ladders, falls onto the floor. I know he gets like a hard way cut that he took a ladder to the back of the head. I mean, Finlay is going balls to the wall in this in this match. I mean, they are just going for
Finlay
it.
In general, like I don't know if you've ever watched his earlier stuff. Like the dude. There's a reason his nickname was the Belfast Brawler.
Yes.
But this was a great match. Like, I mean, I love the spot where Jeff Hardy put Edge through the ladder, because I remember being like, that's the first big spot like that we ever saw in the Money in the Bank ladder match. But what's more famous for this is, well, Mr. Kennedy is probably one of the, and it's foreshadowing what we're going to talk about later, but it's one of the worst winners of the Money in the Bank because of how it ended.
Okay, if it's how it ended, that's fine. I'm a huge Mr. Kennedy fan. I was over the moon when this happened at the time.
I agree. He was a great wrestler, but unfortunately how it ended just kind of...
Well, and because you will say this, but maybe it's burying the lead here, but RVD gets busted and has to give up the title after his Money in the Bank contract. Who won the title from him? Edge.
Edge.
Yep. Mr. Kennedy gets in trouble behind the scenes. Who beats him in 7 seconds to win his Money in the Bank briefcase after he gets injured and in trouble? It's pretty funny because it worked. I mean, when your nickname's the ultimate opportunist,
it definitely worked.
It's funny that how it works, and it just helped.
And then from there, we got a great World Heavyweight title run from Edge that, if I'm not mistaken, included defenses against the Undertaker and like other massive superstars. Yeah,
I mean the Kennedy injuries and the backstage heat and all that stuff kind of made Edge, because who knows? Because you'd assume just by the way they were going, especially that only being the third briefcase, that Kennedy was going to get the title at some point.
Yeah,
so when he
was being primed, like at one point it was going to happen until the last moment. He was going to be revealed as McMahon's illegitimate son at that time.
Oh, that's right.
Hornswoggle.
That's right. Oh my god, I forgot that was the point. That was the big plan.
That was
he was going to be.
That was the plan. It made obvious. It's like his name is Kennedy and all that stuff, but then now to know where it's Hornswoggle. Huh.
Yeah, that went well. Remember when Kennedy Green Bay slammed Hornswoggle off the ladder in that match?
Yes. That was like, oh, you can't do that to him.
Don't do it. And he smokes him too. I mean, it's perfectly done.
Yeah. That's what I love about Hornswoggle, is that he's another guy that he knows what his limitations are, but he's still going to give you his all. He's still going to do it to intrigue the fans. And yeah, he was one of my favorites. It's funny enough, though, I have to sadly admit, I still haven't seen the WLC match.
What are you talking about?
I think I'm going to go watch it after this.
It's so fun.
Yeah,
it is so fun.
I was just listening to Ryan Sands Out of Character with Drew McIntyre, and they were talking about it. It's like, I forgot about that match.
God, it's so funny. I should rewatch that. I haven't watched it since it happened.
I am definitely looking forward to that. And so once again, the next year we are returning to WrestleMania 24 in Orlando, Florida. In the match, you had Carlito, the returning Chris Jericho, John Morrison in his first Money in the Bank match, MVP, Mr. Kennedy, of course, the returning Shelton Benjamin, and the winner, CM Punk. How stoked were you when he won?
I was stoked because he was just coming up. Wasn't he still in ECW? He was still in ECW, I'm pretty sure. I think he was.
Hold on, I'm gonna
look that up quick
right now. Yeah,
because he wins the next year too.
He does win the next year.
I'm about 100% sure. I thought he was still in ECW at that WrestleMania.
You're right. He was on ECW at that time.
Yeah, and that was why, because everybody knew, because ECW at that point in 2009 or 10
was 8.
Well, oh gosh, 2008 was. Everybody saw that it's been on TV for 2 years, and holy man, is this bad?
Yeah.
But the one guy that everybody was paying attention to was CM Punk.
For sure.
People were like, "Oh, there's the one guy that is good here."
He's one.
And I remember feeling that. I remember feeling that when I was watching him and there. I'm like, can he win this? Like, this would be great if he could do this.
And that's another one where, unfortunately, like it's not the best run with the Money in the Bank, because again, he wins the title, but it's how he lost the title that kind of ruins it. Just a one-off segment at Unforgiven where he gets kicked in the head by Randy Orton, taking him out of the match, setting up Jericho coming in to win the match. It's like, he deserved better. And thank God we got better from there with him. But that was a rough one.
That's a rough one.
Yeah. And then, so the next year, we go to the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania, which is actually one of my favorite all-time WrestleManias. Again, you've got Christian, Fit Finlay, Kane, Kofi Kingston, Mark Henry, which is like the stick out on that one, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, and again, if I'm not mistaken, the only wrestler to win 2 years in a row, CM Punk.
Yep. Who did he? Because I know that's not one of my favorite ladder matches. Who did he defend against? I'm sure you have that up in front of you. Do you know?
Defend.
Who did he get what did he do with the Money in the Bank for that one? That's one of the ones I'm less familiar with.
Cashed in again against Jeff Hardy.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's when he went into the program with Hardy, and then he turned heel.
Yep, exactly. Okay, that's what I thought that one was.
Yeah, because it was leading into the Straight Edge Society. Yeah, I agree. Not the best ladder match, but what happened afterwards compared to the year before, way better.
Much better. Yeah. And you could tell that it's so funny to see. This was probably something that you loved while you were doing this too, is to see who was in all these, like to remember, because it really shows you that time capsule, especially that late 2000 time capsule of MVP, Mr. Kennedy, Finlay, young CM Punk, Shelton Benjamin, John Morrison. It was like this little bubble of people.
And for the most part, they're all still wrestling.
Yeah. Probably almost every one of them are.
Yeah.
In some way.
Now we're getting into an interesting year in 2010 because we had 3 Money in the Bank ladder matches that year.
Yeah, that's where it gets bad.
Yeah, we had the final one at WrestleMania 26, which had Christian, Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, Evan Bourne, Kane, Kofi Kingston, Matt Hardy, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, and the winner. Can't believe I'm saying this. The winner of Money in the Bank, Jack Swagger.
Yep. The best winner ever. 2010, going in that time capsule thing, that 2010, 2011 era of WWE, that's when they were really roughing it with Jack Swagger, Great Khali, I mean.
But what's funny enough, the Money in the Bank 2011 is what kick-started the next era.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So after the WrestleMania match, we had the inaugural Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and the 2 matches were, the first one was for the World Heavyweight Championship contract. You had Big Show versus Christian, Cody Rhodes, Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, Kofi Kingston, Matt Hardy, and the winner, Kane.
Kane, yeah.
That was out of left field.
I think that's why they went with it too. Like,
yeah, because that's where he got his lengthy world heavyweight title run as a heel. That I think is his best run ever.
It is. It is. Yeah. Again, it's because of the time. They didn't have any huge stars at the time. They were trying to make them.
Yeah,
Kane's he's like Undertaker.
Yeah,
he's a great fallback guy. If you need
for sure.
if you need X, Y, and Z done, ask Kane to do it.
Especially at that time. That version of Kane, the whole maskless era, is my favorite Kane.
Is it okay?
Especially at the beginning when he got unmasked and he was very unhinged. When he lit JR on fire and did that's my favorite version of Kane.
That was fun stuff too.
Yeah. And then the final Money in the Bank match of the year, also the same event, is for the WWE Championship. It was Chris Jericho, Edge, Evan Bourne, John Morrison, Mark Henry again, Randy Orton, Ted DiBiase Jr., and the winner, The Miz.
Yeah, wah.
Yeah.
Because that led to the amazing... Didn't that... Yeah, The Miz. Poor Miz.
Cash into Randy Orton. Yeah, poor for Miz. Sure. Like, yeah.
You talk about another guy, go back to our conversation with like Nikki and Alexa. He does everything right.
Yeah. The dude has won me over big time.
He has now, but then I'm sure you were like me, and you were like, "Oh gosh, please no."
Well, not particularly. No, like I was like, really that guy, but I took a moment. I was like, okay, let's see where this goes, because I mean that's the way I look at it all. It's like obviously I'm not going to be behind every decision, but let's see where it goes. Right. And for the first part, it was not bad. It was until we got WrestleMania when he was kind of lost in the shuffle with the Rock Hogan. Fortunately, got seriously concussed in that match. Like watching that back on his documentary, the WWE Network, you heard his head hit the concrete, man. That was rough.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting just era of WWE. I just always love it.
Yeah, and then going into the 2011, which is my favorite Money in the Bank pay-per-view.
Okay, all
right. Because of the main event going into it, because just a week prior we had the massive CM Punk pipe bomb.
Right.
And then going into it was. And then going into it, nobody knew. Like it was one of those things. Like even though like nobody knew if he had resigned or not, so nobody knew what was going to happen going in. Then he wins the title, and he's gone for a little bit, and that oh my god, like that just skyrocketed me back into being a fan because I had kind of fallen off a little bit by that point.
Sure, I mean it's one of the greatest moments of all time
for sure. Yeah, CM Punk blowing kiss to Vince as he's about to walk through the crowd.
That is a great moment. And the thing is. Even though you kind of knew like that Vince doesn't allow these things to happen, like you just know it, but they actually gotcha. Like, don't you love it when once every 5 years where WWE or wrestling in general, they get you and you're like, oh, they got me.
Yeah, where they finally pull their gut in their head and it's like, oh, this is right.
Yeah, and it worked. It's a great pay-per-view, and that match alone kills it.
So the first Money in the Bank match of that card was again for the World Heavyweight Championship contract. It was Cody Rhodes, Heath Slater, Justin Gabriel, Kane, Sheamus, Sin Cara, Wade Barrett, and the winner, Daniel Bryan.
Yep.
Which led into Daniel Bryan's first heavyweight title run, which was ended at WrestleMania in what, like 10 seconds?
Yep. That was a great ending. That was fun. We all loved watching Sheamus kick his head off in 10 seconds after a great run.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, because that's the run that pretty much that made Daniel Bryan into who he is today.
Yeah, that run was really good. And that's, I think, why people were like, I'm not against this, like the concept of like a 10, 20-second match. I'm really not. It's shocking, like Brock getting beat by Goldberg in a minute. Like that's shocking.
Brock and Kofi from a couple years ago.
Right, but this one was not. Like because you just watched Daniel like spend a lot of time building up to just get knocked down by Sheamus, who is as lukewarm as possible.
Yeah, and then basically, if it wasn't for that if that moment hadn't happened, that 10-second squash, we wouldn't have the Daniel Bryan we have today.
That's true. There's always you can always finagle your way back into what happens because it did.
Yeah,
he's always the underdog and the guy who gets screwed, which is what literally they built the entire story on for him and Triple H for a year.
And that's another one where they listened to the fans, listened to their gut, and went with the right call.
Oh, barely.
Barely.
Oh my God, we almost had Blue Tista as the champ, and they almost ruined the whole thing.
Yeah, I felt bad for Batista. I really did.
He did. He and it's funny. I'm sure you watched the
that.
interview after him. I know we're meandering, but he was like shocked at how he was like, I did not expect to come back and just get ragged on by everyone.
Yeah, he didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve that.
He did not.
No. And so the second one for the WWE Championship contract, you had Alex Riley, remember him, Evan Bourne, Jack Swagger, Kofi Kingston, Rey Mysterio, R-Truth, The Miz, and the less we talk about the winner, the better, Alberto Del Rio.
Yeah. We just don't talk about ADR.
Yeah. And his cash-in was a good cash-in.
It was.
Because that's where we had Triple H turn heel on Daniel Bryan to form the Authority. No.
Isn't that what it was?
No, that was 2 years later, 2013.
Okay.
Who did Alberto Del Rio beat for the title?
I was going to say, because I'm not going to lie to you, that's what I was thinking.
No. Yeah, I was confusing him and no, that's right. I remember he tried to cash in on Punk at SummerSlam and it didn't work.
Is he the first one that didn't cash in successfully?
No, he cashed in successfully.
Okay.
But
because it almost always cashes in, which is almost something that WWE almost needs to fix.
I'm just quickly looking that up. Who did he cash it in on? Winning the Bank, the cash. Yeah, he attempted to cash in on CM Punk. Actually, later that night, not SummerSlam. Sorry. Del Rio eventually cashed in his contract at SummerSlam, challenging Punk after the main event, where he had defeated. Between the two matches, Punk was attacked by Nash, and which led to Del Rio scoring the win. Yeah, so he did cash in at SummerSlam.
That was the Punk Triple H match.
Yeah, the Punk Triple. It was supposed to be Nash instead of Triple H. Yeah.
Oh my God!
They started the program before he was medically cleared.
I always forget about that Nash run.
Mm-hmm.
And that 1 year, a week. It was weird. That was weird.
It could have been good. I'm not gonna lie. It could have been a good match.
Hey, it turned into a great promo where Punk just rags on Nash for being old and irrelevant the entire time. I'm like, that's pretty good stuff.
CM Punk's promo work in 2011 is some of the best promo work you'll see.
So good.
Yeah. Okay, so going into 2012, again, for the World Heavyweight Championship contract, you've got Christian, Cody Rhodes, Damian Sandow, Santino Marella, Sin Cara, Tensai.
Remember Tensai?
Yeah, that was weird. Tyson Kidd, who, God, I wish his career hadn't been cut short. And the winner, Dolph Ziggler.
This is one of my favorite Money in the Bank matches right here. It is so good. I rewatched it this morning because not only is it good because there's a lot going on here that you remember. Like, this is right at the beginning of Sandow becoming popular. Like, you can tell in the match people don't like him, but they do. Mm-hmm. Santino, this was the year of Santino where he was over like Rover. People loved that guy. I was in the audience for the Elimination Chamber. Remember that, where he almost beat Daniel Bryan?
Yes, you were there.
It took place in Milwaukee, so I'm pretty close by in Wisconsin. And I tell people this all the time. Being in that stadium was insane because people were nuts. Like, they thought he could win. And you rewatch this Money in the Bank, and it was the same way. People were behind, like, he touched a ladder, and people were like, "Is it going to happen? Are they going to actually give it to him?" But it's a really good match. Kid has some great moments in it. It is always weird seeing Tensai. It is the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what they were going for, but it doesn't work.
It doesn't, especially when that's such a weird thing to have a guy who was so noticeable and was a character for so long come back and paint Asian markings on him and call himself a lord. That is one of the weirdest things.
The tattoos are at least real.
Yeah. Right. But this is a great match, by the way. If anybody out there wants to watch a really random Money in the Bank match that doesn't have Ziggler obviously has the awesome cash in from it.
I was just trying to bring that up to confirm that it was this one. Yeah, he cashed in on it was Alberto Del Rio.
Yep. And the crowd pop is insane.
This was the first true Raw after WrestleMania.
Yep.
And you're right. That pop is one of the louder pops you'll ever hear.
It's crazy. When his music hits, people can't believe it. It pisses me off that he never got another run.
Yep.
I don't say WWE quote unquote messes people up too often, but they've given Ziggler a couple huge moments where the crowd was so behind him, and it never went anywhere.
Yeah, what drives me nuts is the excuse that I've heard over the years is that they couldn't trust him because he was injury prone. But what pisses me off about that is how many times did Batista have to relinquish because of injury?
Right.
So that just depends on who you are.
It depends exactly. Depends on who you are and who likes you. It's true. That's WWE. Yeah, it's good though.
See, Ziggler deserved more than that.
I agree.
And then going into the other match for the WWE title contract, we had this was a smaller one. Big Show, Jericho, Kane, Miz, and Cena, who won.
Yeah, that's a really random one. I remember when that happened, and they kept the field super small, and they just put really big names in it. And people thought that was weird because the whole point of the contract usually is to give it to somebody who's, oh gosh, puns are too terrible tonight. Climbing the ladder. So to put all these guys in it, and then Cena winning, but he also unsuccessfully cashes in too, right?
Yeah,
that was the year he didn't.
Yeah, because he won by disqualification, which, if I'm not mistaken, makes him the first to not. Which, I mean, if you're gonna do something like that, do it to Cena because it's not gonna hurt his character.
That's totally why I think they did it. Yeah. I don't think they had a clear cut person, so they rolled to Cena because it's Cena.
Yeah, because this is one of the few instances where a wrestler lost the cash-in match. It doesn't get hurt because, as we noticed, Mr. Kennedy's career didn't go anywhere after that. We're gonna go when we actually come to last year's. There's one that went nowhere,
completely nowhere. I don't know if anybody else's win is nowhere. What is that one? Probably.
Maybe the next one I'm about to talk, it's the contract for the World Heavyweight title match at 2013's Money in the Bank, where you had Cesaro, Cody Rhodes, Dean Ambrose, Fandango, Jack Swagger, Wade Barrett, and the winner, Damien Sandow.
That's right. Okay, yeah, I forgot about that one. You know what? The funniest part about this is, so
of course,
I did what you did today. I read, and I rewatched some of these, and over the last couple of days, I forgot that one existed. And I never read about it. And that's hilarious. I literally, now that you say it, I remember all about it. But I literally didn't even read about it. Didn't watch anything on it, which I would have if I had read about it, because I would have forgot all about it. I completely forgot that one happened. So, okay, never mind. I take it back. This one's number one.
Yeah, no, it's easy because this is another one where the winner didn't the winner didn't win the cash-in match, and his career really suffered after this. Like, thankfully, he had a little bit of a resurgence later on with Mizdow.
Yeah,
but like the world was at his oyster, and somewhere along the line, the company lost faith in him, and which is unfortunate. Yeah. Damien Sandow was a good wrestler.
Yeah, and he was fun.
His character work too was great.
Was great. I mean, that's the reason why I got over with Mizdow. I mean, yeah, he went all in on the character, and look at how popular he got.
Sure. I even liked him when he was doing the Rhodes Scholars with Cody Rhodes.
I did too. I thought he was
Which
good.
Is another thing that we forget about this match. This is where Cody Rhodes turned on him.
Yes, he does in this match. That's right. That happened in the Money in the Bank. Mm-hmm. Man, it's amazing what you forget when you don't watch the stuff every day, all the time.
Right?
Remember,
I'm just talking about it. The stuff's coming to me.
Yeah, dude, it just pops into your head. But that's interesting. Yeah, but I always wondered if Sandow could ever grasp the whole audience or not. He had a tough road to climb.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's one. We'll unfortunately never know that one. And then in the other Money in the Bank match, now this is the one where I mistook earlier. We had Christian, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, RVD, Sheamus, and the winner Randy Orton. I think this is one of the better wins and runs.
Yes, it is.
Because of where it led.
Because Orton's career is always like this.
Yeah,
always, and that was a good spot for him right there. He goes every couple of years, and that's a great run. Not to interrupt, but yes.
Because this launched, whether you like it or not, this was the start of the authority angle in one way or another, because at SummerSlam, this is, again, where I got confused earlier, we had Daniel Bryan versus John Cena for the heavyweight title. Daniel Bryan won the title off of Cena. Triple H was the guest referee. During the celebration, what does Triple H do? He turns on Daniel Bryan. Out comes Randy Orton to cash in, and that's the birth of the Authority.
Yeah. After not only an amazing match, another match that's killer on SummerSlam. That match is awesome.
Which I feel doesn't get talked about enough.
It doesn't. It doesn't. And it's a great match. Like I've rewatched that one a couple times. And the turn at the end is, man, it's brutal. It's just brutal.
That's what you expect from a major wrestling show, is something like that.
Yes, agreed. And and like you're going to say right now, when you do Money in the Bank 2014, is it spills over into this one too? Because I rewatched this Money in the Bank today, and the Authority portion fully is in this one.
Yeah, because the Authority pretty much went on for what, 2 years?
Yeah, this one I'll let you read it, but then I can tell you what happens.
So the 2014 Money in the Bank ladder match. Now at this point, they'd merged the World Heavyweight title and the WWE title. Thank God.
And that was a great match. That was Orton and Cena.
For the TLC. Yeah, is that the one where Orton tied him with the ring rope?
Yes, because it's the one where they have the big spot set up at the end. Because it was TLC.
Yeah, it was TLC. Yeah,
and he pushes Cena off, and like Cena's only his head hits the table, and it only cracks a little bit. But that almost it almost made it look more brutal because literally his head broke the table.
I forgot about that,
and that's how he lays there, and it's almost like almost a better. It almost worked out better.
Yeah,
because it just looked like he just was KO'd from knocking his head. That was a great match.
It was, but one of the things that stands out the most from the build-up to that was when they had all the champions in the ring, and that's where you realize how behind Daniel Bryan the fans were, because that's all they did was chant for him.
Easily one of the greatest moments ever is when they're going. It's like 2 minutes. It's like 2 minutes long of just yes, until finally Mark Henry raises his hand. He's like, "All right, we got to stop now. We got a TV show to run. We got to go."
Yeah,
it's funny.
So Seth Rollins wins this one. And this is the launch of Seth Rollins as we know him now, because just prior to this, he was in the Shield. And then you didn't quite. And I remember when the split happened, because everyone was always, it's going to be Ambrose that's going to be the star. But it ended up being Rollins that was the first true star of the group.
Yep. Well, and when you watch this Money in the Bank, too, it's literally, it's the Ambrose Rollins show. The whole match is built around the feud. And I forgot until I rewatched it, was right when Ambrose was going to get the briefcase, Kane's music hits, because that was when Kane just joined the Authority.
Right.
And he comes out and screws over Ambrose, and then Rollins gets the briefcase.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot all about that.
This was my favorite cash-in.
It's the best cash-in. I don't know if the cash-in will ever get better.
Edge is the most iconic, but this one is better.
This one's better for a lot of reasons. It's better for sure. The main event of WrestleMania is awesome. It's the first time he cashed in the middle of a match to create himself a match.
Yeah.
But the other thing is Roman and Brock were killing each other in that match.
Right.
Like it's not like he just cashed it on some schlubby match. That Roman Brock match is probably my favorite match of the last 5-7 years. Like it is
really.
When you rewatch, you should rewatch it.
I've been meaning to rewatch that.
Those two guys go to town on each other. Like it's as close to a real fight as WWE gets. Because that Brock hard weighs himself on the ring post.
Yeah,
like he full tilt runs into it, hoping that he bleeds. Sure. I mean,
I wonder if that's why they put the HD things on the posters to stop that.
To stop that. But but that's I think also what really helps that cash in.
Yeah, but that's easily one of the top 5 WrestleMania moments of all time. It has to be, because the crowd went nuts. And you were saying like that match was one of your is your favorite of all time. I actually prefer the Royal Rumble triple threat.
So do Rollins. They're both great. Ed and Cena. Yeah, I think those 2 matches really show whenever people get hard on Brock, and I understand he's had his moments. Those 2 matches show that Brock is not. The guy's
got the right person and he wants to.
He's legit.
He can still be the best.
Yeah, he can be the best, and he made both those matches worth. Yeah. Of course, there's other people in them, but yeah.
I'm not gonna lie though. Sometimes watching Brock, I do wish sometimes he would bring back some of his old moveset a little bit, just kind of to mix it.
I get it. It all depends on, and I could talk about this all day, which we won't, but. It all depends on his opponent. It really does. If he's going in there with Roman, Braun, and Goldberg, what do you do?
Well, he had some good matches with Roman.
He did have some good matches with Roman.
The other 2, not so much. And then you look at, like, he had a great WrestleMania match with CM Punk. I had a barn burner of SummerSlam match with Triple H. Then there's the Dean Ambrose match.
Oh God! And I was so pumped for that match.
Yeah,
I had that built up. I had that built up in my head so much. Well, they didn't have anything for Dean, but then I was like, well, Dean's fun because he's Dean Ambrose, he's crazy, and he's a brawler, so this should be. Oh man, that match was brutal.
But
and from what
this is actually preparing. I'm pretty sure you were going to say this. Like, I don't know why out of all opponents, Brock Lesnar chose not to cooperate with Dean Ambrose,
which he did.
Yeah,
I don't remember the same reason why Stone Cold 10 years earlier decided not to cooperate with Brock Lesnar and say screw it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
I know, but Brock had them few matches. Sorry, I know we got to keep going Money in the Bank, but like that little run he did with like Finn, Samoa Joe, and like AJ, he did those like 3 in that year, where like literally they were just throwing people at him. But all those matches turned out to be
for sure. Even though one of them was on one of the worst named pay-per-views of all time, Great Balls of Fire.
Oh God, sometimes.
Yeah, I think Vince McMahon might be a really big fan of Jerry Lee Lewis. Okay, so now we're heading into 2015. So this is once again for the WWE World Heavyweight title because, like I said earlier, they had combined the two, so kind of made like an undisputed title of sorts. So in this one, we had Dolph Ziggler, Kane, Kofi Kingston, Neville, who I'm disappointed didn't get a better run in the company, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns of all people in his first Money in the Bank match, and Sheamus, who won. To be honest, I don't remember the aftermath of this one too well.
I don't either. I'm not a big Sheamus guy. I don't think the aftermath of most of the things he's ever done has been interesting.
I got to see him live once. It's the only WWE event I've ever attended. So you remember back in 2010 when the whole Nexus thing, when John Cena was like teasing to become part of it? I went to the Go Home Raw before bragging rights where Cena joined. Yeah, remember that pay-per-view? That's the one where you had the main event of SmackDown versus Raw. But I remember me and my uncle, my cousin were sitting in the audience. I got a great view of the matches. Bret Hart was a manager for the dark match, which was really cool. But I remember Sheamus came out, and I took a picture on my old Razor phone. And when I looked at it, the dude was glowing, like it's like he was glowing like when they opened the briefcase in Pulp Fiction.
Totally.
This is like,
well, remember when he started that, whatever part of the gimmick that he's had, because he rotates a lot. When they were just doing the white lights on him behind him.
Oh my
It literally looked like he was glowing. It was awesome.
It hurt.
It was crazy.
That hurt.
It's so crazy. But yeah, I don't care much for Sheamus. I never have. So I don't remember anything about that.
I think it works for him.
That's fine.
I mean, I'm sorry. I like the character he has now.
Sure, it's different.
Yeah. It's different, yeah, because it kind of fits that Irish brawler.
It's better than Mohawk braided beard, Sheamus.
Yeah, let's not get into that. So the following year, now this was a huge one because this is the first time the winner cashed in the same night. Yeah. You had he who shall not be named, Alberto Del Rio, Cesaro, Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. Now that's a combo in a ladder match with the winner being Dean Ambrose.
Yep.
Which I was like, awesome. Like, he's going to get his due. You fast forward to later in the night when it's Roman and Seth, and Dean Ambrose wins the title.
Yep.
Like, holy shit.
That night, all 3 members of the Shield were heavyweight champ. Because it was Roman, Seth beat Roman.
Yeah.
Ambrose beat Seth, which is super cool. That's one of the other great cash. That's probably, to me, like number 3 behind Edge.
It's easily top 5
Rollins,
for sure.
Because it's so, just because the Shield connection to it was too awesome.
Sure. That night, like that night has to have helped cement the Shield being one of the greatest factions of all time. And if you think about it, they weren't around that long. 2 years?
No, they weren't. 2 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And it was really the first time also in that Money in the Bank too that I vividly remember the forefront of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's like just, feud that they've had for 15 years.
Yes.
Because they are constantly, the whole match is based of them beating the piss out of each other the entire time.
I was really excited to see them square off in WWE because I'd only heard about their matches on Independence.
Sure.
And honestly, their Battleground match that they had is easily the best of the WWE bunch.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah,
it was good. It's funny when you rewatch that one too. It's all there.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're heading into 2017. Now I'm going to juggle this a little bit. So instead of doing the first ladder match, I'm going to actually go to the second one first because it was the WWE Championship match. Baron Corbin wins against AJ Styles, Dolph Ziggler, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura. This, again, Baron Corbin, I actually like him. I seem to be one of the few that likes him. I'm glad this didn't ruin his career.
Yeah, I like current Baron Corbin. But long hair.
Yeah, I agree. Current Baron Corbin, like the whole king gimmick on.
Yeah, this version in this Money in the Bank, man. Yeah. This was heavily the feeling of WWE had a homegrown guy that they liked, ex-football player, big dude that Vince liked. And I think they just gave it to him, and they went to roll with it, and
it didn't work at the time.
What it was. It did not.
He has my favorite finisher currently.
He has your favorite what?
Finisher currently. I love the End of Days. I think it's one of the coolest looking finishers.
I do too. It's a great finisher and looks good too because of it visually is appealing.
Yeah. Now, what's memorable and groundbreaking about the 2017 Money in the Bank is it is the very first women's Money in the Bank title match, which featured Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Natalya, Tamina, which I forgot about, and the winner, Carmella.
Oh, I love Mella's money.
It took me a little bit to warm up to her, but it was when she won here, that's when I started to warm up to her. Now, what's interesting about this? Yes, she wins the first one, but it's how she won. James Ellsworth is the one who gets the briefcase for her and drops it to her,
which people at the time didn't like, but it totally made sense.
Yes,
I think it was only because it was the first female one and a man did it.
Yeah, but I agree on that sense.
The Ellsworth Carmella, that was whenever I see Carmella now, and she's just been floundering for years now. I'm just like, why don't they just let her be Mella as money again? That was the one time she felt like she was someone.
Actually, funny enough, if you do want to actually hear about that, you should check out Ryan Satin's out of character interview that he did with her a couple weeks ago. I did yesterday. It's a really good interview. She actually goes into the evolution of her character and how it ended up where it is and stuff like that. It's a really fascinating listen. I'd recommend listening to that.
I will.
So a couple days later on SmackDown, they ended up redoing the match because of the Ellsworth interference, and Carmella won again, which makes her the only female two-time champion, the first to do it in the same year.
Yeah, that was good. Because I know people didn't like her, but it was working, which is good. 100%. She's a heel. She was working that year or two right there. I thought it was. It was. Oh man, I can't get over how well that was working. And the Ellsworth and Ellsworth was too. I have buddies, and I'm sure you do too. And I have friends, and I have a couple guys that have wrestled a long time. That when James Ellsworth came on, they were just like they hated it. And then he won them all over by just committing to what he was.
Yeah, and it was so fun. He took his role and he ran it out of the park.
Yeah, he did a great job, and so did she. Yeah.
And then so we got into 2018. Now this one's is the start of the format where we have now, where instead of back in the old days, it was like you had a one for the World Heavyweight title and you had one for the Raw title. Now you've got the winner gets their brand's title match. So in this one, you have in the women's brand match, you've got Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Ember Moon, Lana of all people. I'd forgotten she participated in the Money in the Bank match. Naomi, love her as a wrestler. Personally, not a fan of the neon light blinking gimmick because it gives me headaches. Well, no, it's true. Like it's sensory overload for me. Like I love her. She's one of the best in ring competitors, but it's a little too much for me. Like the sensory stuff. Naomi, Natalya, Sasha Banks making her first appearance in Money in the Bank, and then the winner, Miss Alexa Bliss.
Yep. And we love Alexa Bliss, we've learned.
Yeah, and they showed it.
She's done a great job.
They showed it this Money in the Bank where she's sending the title. I love that pose she did with the title.
Yeah, so did I. Isn't it funny whenever you see stuff like that in wrestling or just anything that just a subtle thing like that can how is it? Yeah. There's been wrestling titles for how many years? Nobody decided to hold the belt like this. Like, isn't it funny when that happens? Like such a little thing, but yeah,
It is.
I've
And then
always loved.
later in the night, she went in and cashed it to win the title against the match was Ronda Rousey versus Nia Jax. Nia Jax was the champ, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
Rousey did not get pinned, because I remember it was later on they finally gave her the match, the title, Alexa Bliss, I believe.
Yep.
And then in the men's match, you had Bobby Roode, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Kofi Kingston, Rusev, Samoa Joe, The Miz, and the winner, Braun Strowman.
Yeah, that was another random one that I thought that I remember even at the time. I know that was when they really wanted to skyrocket Braun.
Yeah.
But even at the time, I'm like, does a man this humongous need a contract? Like, look at him. He should be able to walk into a room and get a belt. Like, look at him.
He's a monster. Grab the belt.
Right.
What's interesting about this is Braun also announced his cash in ahead of time, but he had to relinquish the briefcase on a Raw episode, and they ended up losing in a count of disqualification. He ended up he didn't win the match.
Right. Yep. Yeah, he definitely felt like kind of like the one we're going to talk about in 20. The one from last year.
Yeah.
That they knew they had something for him, but they didn't, which sometimes happens with WWE, where they write the script for the night and they're like, "This is a good idea," and then, a little bit later, you're like, "Oh, maybe we don't have the plan that we thought we had."
Yeah, he ended up going on a great run, but at the time, you're like, "Oh shit, they just dropped the ball on him."
100%.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going into 2019. So in the women's match, you had Carmella, Dana Brooke, Ember Moon, Mandy Rose, another one who I'd forgotten had participated in the Money in the Bank, Naomi, Natalya, and this year's winner, Nikki Cross, with that year's winner being Bayley. Now, what I don't remember, was this heel Bayley?
No, this could have been heel Bayley. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. She didn't become heel baby until the pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It feels like maybe it's just a pandemic thing, but God, doesn't it feel like she's been healed forever? 2 years ago, she could not have been healed then yet.
Well, I'm looking.
She didn't turn heel with the briefcase, did she?
No, because she turned heel after 35.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, and that was the year so that was, I think she was healed by that point.
God, it's been that long already.
Yeah, unfortunately, those years kind of conflate together. And then we go into the men's match. Now, this is an interesting one. So you got, I hated when they took away his first name, Mustafa Ali, Andrade, Baron Corbin, Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, Randy Orton, Ricochet, and the winner who just, I'm going to be in the match, Brock Lesnar.
As a Brock guy, I was all about it.
I remember being pissed at the time, because I'm at the point where this is how I felt about Cena in his day, and this is kind of how I feel about Charlotte now. Not that I do not like them as wrestlers. That's not the case at all. I feel like they have transcended the title, and Brock didn't need this.
No, he didn't.
He did. We ended up getting some good stuff out of it, but Brock did not need it.
Because didn't somebody get beat up and couldn't make the match? So that's kind of how they finagled their way that he could just run in because he took that person's spot or something like that. But that match, if you rewatch that match is really good. And I just rewatched a clip because it was following on Twitter after last weekend. Is Andrade and Finn Balor do the spot where they have the ladder propped against the rope, and they do the fastest, best sit down power bomb onto it that looks like it kills Finn Balor, and it is a great spot. I had to watch it on Twitter 4 times. I'm like, this is so
I remember
good.
that. So what happened with Lesnar is there was a 4th unannounced Raw participant, and that's who it ended up being.
Got it. That's right.
Because Zayn had got injured.
People were so mad about that.
Yeah, I mean, I get why you would give it to Brock, but he doesn't need it. He's transcended the title at this point.
Right. And if he gets the title, it's one thing, but does he need again, going back to even Braun and when Braun was not Brock, why does Brock Lesnar need the freaking... He could walk... He's to the point where he could show up on the show and be like, hey, like Cena, hey, I want a title match because, I'm Brock Lesnar. So I get a title.
Who's going to say no to Brock Lesnar?
Right. Yeah, that was when they were force feeding Brock. I understand why people definitely stopped liking him around that era.
Yeah, it's there was a time. That was the time where Brock, when he was champ, he wouldn't show up, and it's like, remind me of the Hogan days all over again. So now we go into the pandemic Money in the Bank match. Now, what was unique about this? And I'm not gonna lie, I liked this as a one-off. I loved it.
So fun.
Oh yeah, because I mean, this was like right after the pandemic. So what that started. So what can you do really? So this is when they started going more cinematic with stuff. So this ended up being a marathon sprint through the WWE headquarters to make it to the roof where the ladder and the ring were. The winner, the women's match, you had Carmella, Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and the winner, Asuka. Now, what was significant about this match?
That they were going out at the same time?
No, what happened the night after?
Oh my gosh. Now you're going to make
so the night after, Becky Lynch comes to the ring. And it announced, and Asuka comes in, and that's when like Becky's like, look in the briefcase, and she opens it, and it's the Raw Women's title, and that's when Becky reveals last night wasn't for the contract, it was for the title because I'm pregnant. I'm going to be a mom.
Yep.
Yeah,
and it was great. Asuka's perfect for it,
for sure, and I liked how they handled it.
Yeah, I did too. It was very, very well done.
It worked. It really worked.
It did.
Now this is
what didn't work. What
the next
say
one
right now.
Yeah, and easily what is the most disappointing win? You had AJ Styles, Aleister Black, Daniel Bryan, King Corbin, Rey Mysterio, and Otis winning.
Couldn't believe it.
Very out of left field.
Couldn't believe it.
But
I thought this is where they were going to give it to Black. I thought this was where they were going to go, okay, we got to roll with this.
I think we all were.
And then they threw him and Mysterio off the tower, and they were
I was going to say, that was dumb because you could see in the establishing shots the pad.
The pad. I was so stupid.
Yeah, but like Otis, I understand why they gave it to him because at the time he was riding high. He had just come off the winning Mandy Rose's heart at WrestleMania, which would have played huge in front of a crowd.
Yep.
But then after this, what happened?
Right.
It just went into the toilet.
Otis is such a character, like not having a crowd kills his character.
It killed him.
It killed it. Like, so it's amazing they made with that commitment after months of not having a crowd.
Yeah. And
like, then I totally get it if there was a crowd there.
Yeah, 100%. But you didn't.
You didn't.
And then you got the weird storyline where the Miz was trying to use legal loopholes to get it away from him. You did
because that.
You did get the great courtroom scene with JBL, the judge, which makes sense.
Which makes sense. But yeah, and then that's eventually what happened, right? Miz ended up getting.
He lost it. He ended up defending it against the Miz at Hell in a Cell and lost it.
Ugh.
Yeah,
that was just a series of unfortunate events. I don't know why. Why not put or just give it to Mysterio or something? Like, Otis was a terrible choice.
Yeah.
Just terrible.
You're right. Like, I mean, it was destined to go nowhere. Then we're into this year's Money in the Bank, which was the return of the live crowds, which made this event so much better.
Totally.
In the first match you had for the women's championship, you had Asuka, Naomi, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Zelina Vega, Natalya, Tamina, and the winner out of nowhere, Nikki Cross.
Yep. Out of nowhere. And again, like we said earlier in the show, it totally made sense when she cashed in on Charlotte Flair.
Agreed.
The next night on Raw.
Feel-good moment.
It was a feel-good moment. And I also want to just point out, happy to see Zelina Vega back. I'm a big fan.
Me too. And I'm actually happy to see her go into the ring because I think when she was wrestling in TNA, she was a good wrestler. Unfortunately, underutilized in the first run. Not that she wasn't bad in her role. It just, I liked her as a wrestler.
Me too.
And then in the match, in my opinion, the match of the night, the men's match, you had Ricochet, John Morrison, Matt Riddle. Don't call him Riddle. It's Matt Riddle.
It's Matt Riddle. I hear Vince is bringing his name back.
I hope so.
I heard because Vince is huge on him right now, so he wants his name back.
Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, King Nakamura, Seth Rollins, and the winner, long overdue,
Big
E.
Finally, 5 years later, Big E is finally getting his push. 5 years.
It seems right now that he is going to be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns. Is what it looks
you think so? You don't think?
Yeah, he's not going to go against Bobby. He's not going to go.
You think so?
No, I think they're going to keep him separated from the New Day. So I think I think it's better, honestly, for Big E to stay on SmackDown. Keep him away from Raw.
Well, this New Day thing, I have given them all the credit in the world for taking that thing and turning it into the mega merchandise money-making conglomerate they did for as long as they did it.
Name me the last stable that lasted 10 years.
And was relatively good and popular throughout most of it.
And still are.
But it's time. It is time to be done with this. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to be in a stable anymore to be friends. You just
for
don't.
sure.
Just
And
don't.
I mean,
Just go do your thing.
yeah.
Just go do
That's
it.
why I think it's best to keep Big E over on SmackDown. But what my question was, it's obvious that it's what the plan is right now. When do you think Big E will cash in?
Well, we got to think that it's SummerSlam's August. Before, you'd assume before Royal Rumble. So, you know,
I'm
you got to
thinking
give it somewhere in there.
SummerSlam.
Oh, you think he'll do it that night, huh?
I think he'll do it. I think because the word is going into the SummerSlam, they want to turn it into the summer equivalent of WrestleMania.
Right.
So
they need a moment.
Yeah, exactly. They need a moment. What other way to give it than to have someone that everybody's behind have his hand raised as the champion at the end of the night, beating the unbeatable Roman Reigns, who by that point should have been a champion for a year.
Right. Well, and it would work too because, let's be honest, everybody knows Cena's not winning the title because he doesn't have the time to be the heavyweight champion. He's going to be around for about a month and a half.
Yeah,
because he has a movie. He has a movie to shoot.
Which is right now. That's all I need is Cena.
Yeah, and this is great. We're going to get the great match.
Yeah,
and it's good for Roman because Cena will have taken Roman to the limit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, by the end of that match, even if Roman does win, however he wins, he's going to be dead and like exhausted and can't go on anymore because he just wrestled the greatest of the last 20 years, John Cena.
Yeah.
So it's a good cash in. That's clever. I'm not sure. I don't know, but we'll find out. I can understand your point. I get your reasoning though.
Yeah, for sure. And I just looked it up. August 30th was when he won the title at Payback, and that's when it'll be a year. So it's going to be coming close.
Oof. Well, there's your storyline if they get it. But I also think of what they need to get through the rest of the year. And I'm not sure if Big E's the guy to get him through the rest of the year or not. Maybe he is.
Yeah.
I guess
you never know.
I guess we're gonna find out.
Exactly. And on that note, that's it for our time here. Where did
Money in the Bank
go?
I know, geez, we were right when we could talk wrestling for a really long time.
Yeah.
With very little notes.
Yeah, very little notes and very fluid.
very, very fluid. So I hope everybody that will watch this had a good time and wants to chit chat wrestling with us going forward.
Exactly. Like wrestling has always been a passion of mine since I was a little kid. And I'm happy that now I'm at a point in my life where I'm meeting people who like to talk about it. Like I just started a job where one of the guys is as big a wrestling fan as we are. And it's like, awesome.
Immediate friends. Friends.
Exactly. We were immediate friends. We actually made plans to watch SummerSlam at my place. So
I know I wasn't even in this shirt. And then I even had the thought like 10 minutes before I came on. I'm like, how about you Soda's going to be in a wrestling shirt?
Yeah. My thing was, which one should I wear?
I know. So I was like looking through them. I'm like, I like the Mega Powers one. That's a good one. Mega Powers is always solid. And maybe we'll have to get into our wrestling fandom origins sometime soon.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea because it'll end up with a heartbreaking story that involves my mother throwing out my toys.
Oof. Oh, on that note, don't leave us with such depressing news.
Yeah. But so we don't exactly have a topic for next week, but I guarantee you we will definitely have a great discussion, and we will eventually be bringing on guests because I've made some amazing friends on here who are also wrestling fans, like Chris Lopez from Spin for the Real. I would love to have him on with us, and there's so many others. But I think this was a good first episode. This was a great way to launch.
I think so too. I think we're gonna have some fun with this, and we're really gonna bring some. I think we kept it pretty chill with doing Money in the Bank right now, but I think there's so much to cover, so much old WWE and old wrestling and stuff, and so much fun stuff. And I think we can make this work.
Me too.
Thanks for reaching out and letting me on your channel. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Like, I mean, it's the moment I found out you were a wrestling fan and we started talking. It's just like when I came up with this idea, I'm like, there's only one guy I want as my co-host.
No, oh, how sweet. Thank you.
Yes. Now, on that note, Dustin, where could everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Dustin Dubuque, and that's it. And now, apparently, I'm officially a member of the crew over here with Soda. So I'm excited.
You're one of the family of the Schmoes of the North.
I'm excited. So you probably will find me with Schmoes of the North going forward.
Speaking of family, that's actually one of the things that fans have been pointing out going into the Roman Reigns John Cena match. It's the battle of the co-stars of Fast and the Furious.
Oh my gosh!
Because Roman Reigns was in Hobbs and Shaw, right?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, which is a fun movie, by the way. But that's neither here nor there. That's for another show.
And how about you? Where can they find you, even though they hear you say this on all these shows?
You can find me on my personal Instagram and Twitter at soda_the_saxman. You can find me all over the Schmoes of the North channel. I think out of everybody, I do the most shows. That's amazing. I managed to find the time to do all this. But yeah, so you can find me all over there. You can find me on my personal Instagram and Twitter. Don't forget to like, subscribe to Schmoes of the North. And yeah, if you're interested, just join in on the conversation. We're always welcome to have discuss wrestling with anybody.
Absolutely.
So on that note, thank you guys very much for joining us, and we will see you next week on the Squared Slice. Have a good night, everyone.